Morning, everybody. You know, Isaac was saying we make people cry, and I'm like, that could be a really bad thing. Maybe that wasn't the best thing to say, that people were leaving crying after we talked to them. So we're just going to kick it off. July 19th of last year, I was riding on the way back from our Grafton campus with Pastor Mark and Kale. Chris was deployed for 7 months last year, and so I often found myself either here or in our Grafton campus just trying to find something to do so I wouldn't be home alone. A lot of us military spouses know how that can go, so I found myself here a lot. So we're on our way back from being there all day. Kale's driving, Pastor Mark is in the passenger seat. I am in the back seat and I'm kind of dozing, it's been a long day. And Pastor Mark goes, Rach, you ever thought about preaching? And I just stared at the back of his bald head. And I was like, bro, Dr. Reverend Pastor Mark, have you lost your mind? And I was like, I think I started giggling and was like, Kale, what else do we have to do in Grafton this week? Because I just did not want to acknowledge that, because public speaking is a fear of both of us. It is not a thing we want to do. So obviously, it was brought back up, 10 months later to be exact. We're sending out the weekly worship email, and Pastor Mark writes back, he said, hey, Rachel and Chris, and the thing is, he didn't just send it to us, he sent it to the whole worship team, all the contacts in there, so I was like, that's pressure.
He knew what he was doing.
Yeah. So he sent it, and he said, hey guys, I just love you. Would you be willing to take the pulpit your last sermon? And I'm downstairs in our house folding laundry. I am like, upstairs, I bump into Chris in the hallway, and he's like, did you see what he said? And so I'm like, tell him no. And he's like,
you tell him.
And I look at him and I'm like, tell him we're gonna be sick that Sunday. And then this little hottie right here looks at me and he says, I can say it, he's my husband, come on. He looks at me and he says, babe, if our reason for saying no is fear, we can't say no. And I'm like, you are so attractive when you're spiritually mature. But I need you to pick another time. So obviously we said yes. Here we are, starting to feel like not a good idea. All right. Well, some of you know us. I know we have visitors here today. So yeah, like this is going to be a little bit of a different sermon, but I'm Chris. No?
Hold on. What's funny is I was the nervous one the first Sunday service, because I don't talk. If any of you know me, I don't talk very much. She's usually the talkative one, so this is funny.
Okay, getting it together, guys. I'm Rachel and this is Chris. We got married December 29th, 2011. I think we have. Aww. See that? Yeah. Aww. All right. We've never looked that good since. That was our peak. That was it. But what most people don't know is that like 30 minutes before this picture was taken, that isn't me like bowing. That is me bent over laughing. During our wedding ceremony, because y'all, I had surgery 3 days before our wedding ceremony, and it wasn't anything I had a choice in. I had knee surgery. So I had to take a Percocet that morning. Because they told me to. They said you have to be on a strict pain management schedule. You have to. So I'm like, okay, but I took it at like 6 a.m. I'm like, there's plenty of time for me not to be high during the wedding. So I thought I was doing good. I had a dinner roll in my pocket of my wedding dress. This is true. And I'd kind of like throw a piece in my mouth so I could just kind of keep myself from keeling over. And anyway, during the ceremony, my dad is marrying us, and he says, Rachel, do you take Christopher Lyle to be your husband? And I just stood there. And I just stood there. Because all I heard was Christopher Lyle Moss. So I thought he was talking to Chris. So I just stood there and I'm like, bro, are you gonna say anything? I'm supposed to say yes. And then I realized after a full minute of silence in the whole church, people were wondering if I'm about to like run. That it was my turn to talk, and my dad's like, Rach? And Chris is like, hey, you good? And I couldn't get it together. I laughed for 5 minutes. And I mean, like, dress. Like, it wasn't a pleasant experience for me. So I couldn't breathe. I'm laughing hysterically. And I know people were probably like, there's some good Cajun food in the other room. You need to get it together. It's time for you to get it together, finish the ceremony so we can get to eat. So that's what we want to talk to you about today. Patience. We wanted to talk about waiting because for us, our entire marriage has been a time of waiting. Some of you know a little bit about our story, but I knew when I was 4 years old that I wanted to be a mom. I asked my mother. I was one of those inquisitive kids that would just ask you straight up. I'm like, yo, where do babies come from? And my mom's a nurse. And obviously she's not going to give me all the details. So she says, okay, let's sit down at the dinner table. We sit down at the dinner table and she says, you pray and God gives you a baby. So I was like, sweet. She goes to the grocery store. She comes back like an hour and a half later. I am still sitting there crying and praying because I knew then. But of course she's like, do one of your siblings beat you up? Like, what's wrong? And I'm like, I'm praying for a baby. You know, like, we had this talk. And she's like, oh, more details are necessary. So she said, oh, you have to wait till you find a husband. And I was like, sweet. Jesus. Prepare a man. Because I thought that this was the obstacle. I thought this is all I needed. You know? So we've been married for 6.5 years. We did finally get pregnant in February of this year, but we lost that baby 2 months later. So we're here, still childless. And through this time, we've had to learn how to wait. And we've not always done it right. But as creatures who cannot by ourselves bring about what we hope for, waiting is our destiny. There's not a single thing we could do without God's intervention. The next breath you take, unless God ordained, will not come. And that's something we have to recognize in our lives. If you hear nothing else today as we talk about waiting, please hear this. I have a slide for that. Patience is the companion of humility and the enemy of pride. And that's something that was really hammered into my heart because I'm like, God, how are we supposed to do this waiting thing? Because I don't like doing it. We don't like doing it. But if we wait with humility, we're waiting in a place of surrender and trust, understanding that He's God. But if we wait with pride, you're going to start feeling entitled to whatever you're going to get. Why hasn't it come yet? And that is the breeding ground for bitterness and resentment towards Jesus. So we're going to talk a little bit about what waiting with humility looks like.
All right, so, if you've got your Bibles with you, go ahead and turn to Acts chapter 1. We're going to look at verse 1 through 14. If you don't have a Bible with you, you can use Rise app with a heartbeat. Starting with chapter 1, verse 1 in Acts. In my former book, Theophilus, I wrote about all that Jesus began to do and to teach until the day He was taken up to heaven, after giving instructions through the Holy Spirit to the apostles He had chosen. After His suffering, He presented Himself to them and gave many convincing proofs that He was alive. He appeared to them over a period of 40 days and spoke about the kingdom of God. On one occasion, while He was eating with them, He gave them this command: do not leave to Jerusalem, but wait for the gift my Father promised, which you have heard me speak about. For John baptized with water, but in a few days you will be baptized with the Holy Spirit. Then they gathered around Him and asked Him, Lord, are you at this time going to restore the kingdom to Israel? He said to them, it is not for you to know the days and times the Father has set by His own authority, but you will receive power when the Holy Spirit comes on you. And you will be my witnesses in Jerusalem and in all Judea and in Samaria and to the ends of the earth. After He said this, He was taken up before their very eyes, and a cloud hid Him from their sight. They were looking intently up into the sky as He was going, when suddenly 2 men dressed in white stood beside them, men of Galilee. They said, why do you stand here looking into the sky? This same Jesus who has been taken from you into heaven will come back in the same way you have seen Him go into heaven. Then the apostles returned to Jerusalem from the hill called the Mount of Olives, a Sabbath day's walk from the city. When they arrived, they went upstairs to the room where they were staying. Those present were Peter, John, James, and Andrew, Philip and Thomas, Bartholomew and Matthew, James, son of Alphaeus, and Simon the Zealot, and Judas, son of James. They all joined together constantly in prayer, along with the women and Mary, the mother of Jesus, and with his brothers. All right, so that's a lot, right? But we're going to break it down and pull some of the meat out of it. So waiting on God, waiting on the Lord is one of the most, probably the most difficult aspect of the Christian life. Jesus promised he'd come back, right? And when he made that promise, he told us to wait. He instructed his followers to wait. And that's a lot easier said than done. So while we're waiting, what do we do? What does that look like? That's what we're going to get into today, what we're going to discuss. So waiting. Nobody likes to do that, but we do it every day. Whether that's waiting in traffic, waiting at the grocery store, for the doctor, waiting for a spouse, for a baby, or for the sermon to go. We do it all the time. Those of you in the Air Force, there's even a saying, hurry up and wait, right? That's a thing. Happens a lot. But waiting, spiritually waiting, is not just something we have to do to get what we want. It's the process that God uses to make us who he wants us to be, to mold us into what he has envisioned for us. What God does in us while we wait is as important as what it is we're waiting for. Biblically, waiting is not passively just waiting on something to happen that allows us to kind of get away from our troubles, get what we want. It is, waiting does not mean just sitting and doing nothing. Those who wait are those who work. Because they know that work is not in vain. Take a farmer, for example. They work to prepare the ground, to sow the seeds, they water the crops, and then they wait. And eventually the harvest will come. The fruits of their labor will come, and it'll all pay off in the end. Those who wait on God can go about their assigned tasks confident that God will provide the meaning and conclusions to their lives and a harvest to their toil. Waiting is confident, disciplined, expectant, active, and sometimes painfully clinging to God. When Jesus told his disciples to wait in Jerusalem, he told them that this was a means of experiencing his peace, prosperity, and his power. In waiting, he promised that they would experience the Holy Spirit. He promised that they would see God in their lives.
So the first point is, waiting on the Lord requires patient trust. We live by the old adage, don't just stand there, do something. How many of you have heard that? Right? Nobody. You've heard that, right? Okay. So we've heard that. Don't just stand there, do something, because our society is rooted in instant gratification, right? If we want something, we can usually get it pretty quickly and fairly easily. So while God often says, don't just, we hear, don't just stand there, do something. God is saying, don't just do something, stand there. It's hard to just wait. I'm a doer. If I see a problem, I want to fix it. I want to fix it quickly. I want to move on to the next thing so I can fix that too. I want to get things moving. I like fast-paced things. And I think a lot of us are like that. We want a quick fix. We want to get it done. This can set us up for failure in our Christian walk because sometimes we want God to operate as our world does. Quick and easy. When he's not of this world. So there's a point A and B in here. Point A is waiting means that we give God the benefit of the doubt that he knows what he's doing. And point B is waiting is God's way of seeing if we will trust in him before we move forward. That trust is a patient trust. Whether it has to do with our relationships, our finances, our careers, our dreams, or our churches, we have to trust that God knows what he's doing. So, some of you know my parents have a pretty interesting love story. My father was about to go on his second prison stint. He was facing 86 years in prison because he was a repeat offender. Did a lot of really, really bad things. But they gave him a 16-year sentence and sent him on his way. On March 6, 1982, a little, like, 98-year-old man came and hung onto their little jail cell doors and said, "Any of you boys want to get saved?" So my dad said, "Everything I've done isn't working. I'll give this a go." So he gave his life to Christ. So his behavior started changing because God transforms us when we surrender to Him. So they made him the chaplain's clerk of the prison. That meant that he arranged different ministry groups to come in and minister to the inmates. That's when he got a call from a woman named Vicky Foga, sweet 28-year-old lady. Or Vicky Waldrop, she's not, that's, yeah. Vicky Waldrop, sweet 29-year-old lady. She said, "Hey, I want to bring my ministry to your prison. And we want to minister to the inmates." And my dad said, when she started talking, I felt it in my spirit that God said, "That's your wife." And he said that I was excited about that, but I was also really nervous because what if she's ugly? But a couple weeks later, Vicky Waldrop shows up with her ministry team. They meet. They fell in love. 6 weeks later, they're engaged. And you can imagine what a well-to-do Southern family in a really great Southern town has to say about a sweet Southern lady going and marrying an inmate with 16 years left. It was a scandal. But they did it anyway. So, I don't know about you, but if you're like, "Okay, Jesus, show me what your plans are for me," and he says, "Rachel, your husband is in this prison. He's got 16 years left. Go marry him." I'd be like, "I'll take door number 2. It's hard to trust when we don't see the big picture. So anyway, during this time, my parents had been married for 13 months. And my dad calls my mom, and he says, "Vicki, God told me I'm getting out in 9 days." And she said, "Honey, I haven't even put in your appeal paperwork, because you have to apply for an appeal if you want to get somebody out of prison. It is a long process." She said, "It's not even in. They don't even know about you. You're not getting out in 9 days." And he said, "Vicki, I'm getting out in 9 days. God told me." That's one of my favorite things about my dad, is he has unwavering faith. Absolutely unwavering faith. So my dad started going around the prison, giving away his stuff. The guards thought he was going to escape. They started keeping a closer eye on him. They're like, "Yo, pork chop's going to try and escape." That's my dad's prison nickname, which is really cool. So, pork chop. Pork chop's going to try and escape. We need to watch him. He's giving away all of his stuff. So, I keep an eye on him. But then on the 9th day, the guard comes to my dad's cell and he said, "Pork chop, I don't know how you did this. I don't know really what's going on, but you're going home. You're being released. You're completely pardoned." And my dad went home. So while a lot of us, I think, would be in this place of, "I'm not going to see my husband for 16 years, this isn't going to work out," my parents prayed, they had faith, and they reaped rewards for it. God got so much glory because of that. They waited correctly. My father had a patient trust in Jesus that wasn't entitled, but surrendered and humble.
So that's point 1. Point 2 says that waiting on God reminds us that God is in control. So we kind of, talked about the fact that we need to wait on God, and that's pretty, it's pretty common knowledge. And that's not really an easy thing, but it is a simple thing. What does it mean? Let's go into some definitions there and what makes it simple. What are we supposed to do when we wait? So if we look at Psalms chapter 130, verses 5 and 6, it will kind of lay that out for us. We'll talk a little bit about it. So it says, "I wait for the Lord, my soul waits. I wait for Yahweh. I wait and put my hope in His word. I wait for the Lord more than watching for the morning, more than watching for the morning." So those last 2 statements are what we're going to kind of focus on. So it talks about watching and them being the example for waiting. But what is watchman? Watchman is a guard or a sentry in Bible times. They looked out for the horizon overnight for enemy troops, for sunrise, anything of interest, they were the first line of defense. That meant they had to be alert. They couldn't just get lazy and just not look, because then what happens if that, the 5 minutes that they close their eyes, an army is approaching? Then, well, they just won't, because they didn't take a notice that they did. So the focus here, though, is that they couldn't control any of that. They didn't control when the sun rose. They weren't commanding the armies that might come across the horizon. If something were to happen, it was because somebody else caused it. They weren't in control of that. So point A of this says, waiting reminds me that I'm not in charge. So looking back towards Acts, where we talked about earlier, he said to them, this is verse 7, he said to them, "It is not for you to know the times or dates the Father has set by his own authority." The truth that we see in here is that what we want and when we want it, it's not our authority that controls that, it's God's. What we want isn't really a factor there. Things happen on his schedule, and they'll be a lot better on his schedule than on ours. Whatever happens in my life, whatever I may be going through, whatever I'm waiting for, since that's what we're talking about, things get a lot less stressful when I just let go and let God. It's difficult. It's not easy to sit back and wait, right? It's very difficult to sit back and wait on something that you really, really want. Rachel shared our story about wanting a baby. It's really hard to let go of that and not get mad, not get impatient, and to say, all right, your timing's best. But that's something we've kind of had to learn how to do. And it always amazes me that when I do that, when I do let go, everything works out better than anything I would have had planned. So point B here says, waiting reminds me that I am not God. So we already talked about not in charge, but also not God. So particularly the guys out there. Ladies, you don't tune me out. I know some of this applies to you too, but the guys. See something broken, you want to fix it, right? Is that most guys out there? Show of hands. All right. So, whether that's something mechanical, where there's a leaky faucet in the car, or a computer problem, some of the tech-minded guys like myself, you want to fix it, right? But that also goes to like relationships, marriages, anything like that. See it broken, you kind of want to fix it. I've never felt that more than when we were going through our miscarriage. I was hurt, I was broken, I wanted to fix that. Rachel was broken, I wanted to fix that. But another thing that we're programmed, the guys that kind of programmed to, is we're protectors, right? We want to protect those that we love. I could not protect Rachel. I could not shield her from this thing. There's nothing I could do. That is the most helpless feeling I've ever felt. And it made me angry. I was mad that we were in that situation. I was bitter that we had prayed for so long for a child, right? And then got carried away. Like, why would you do that? So while I'm angry, amongst all this, we were angry. We didn't really stop praying. We still prayed and said, hey God, we're mad at you, but deliver us from this, right? Help us out with this. And then I got slapped across the face by the Holy Spirit. Looking at Psalm chapter 37, verse 7 and 8, it says, be still before the Lord and wait patiently for him. Do not fret when people succeed in their ways, when they carry out their wicked schemes. Refrain from anger and turn from wrath. Do not fret. It only leads to evil. So, remember how I said I was angry? And God put that verse in front of my face. And that made me let go of it. I was like, okay, well, that's pretty blatantly obvious that you want me to stop being angry. So, instead, I had to redirect that energy, right? How many people who grew up in the church and heard, don't pray for patience? Yeah, okay. I started doing that. Because that was the only thing I knew to pray for. Because I was going to have to wait. I needed that patience to be able to wait. So looking again at Acts chapter 1, verse 7, he said to them, It is not for you to know the times and dates the Father has set by his own authorities. I'm not God. Whatever authority I think that I've got, I don't. When we just sit back and wait, it reminds us that we don't have any control. Like, I have to wait because I can't control what's happening. Just like the watchmen, they can't control the sun to rise, so they have to wait on it. I can't control what happens, certain things that happen in my life, I can't control it, so I have to wait for it. And my job is to be that watchman, is to wait expectantly for the thing to happen. That means staying alert, watching for God to move, because he's going to move.
Okay, so point 3, waiting on the Lord allows God to do his work. Not only do I want to do God's work, but I also want to speed up this process. I'm sure we're all like that. We're like, okay, if I like the thing that you're doing, can we do it quicker? I know I've said that. Are you familiar with the Chinese bamboo tree? I wasn't. I was doing this sermon and I'm like, cool Google, cool illustrations for waiting. And this popped up and I'm like, oh, okay, that's really cool actually. So, Chinese bamboo tree. It's one of the most remarkable plants on earth. Once the gardener plants the seed, he will see nothing but a single shoot, which is that little thing, for 5 years. And it only grows an inch in 5 years. But he still has to water and feed it every day for 5 years. But after 5 years, in a span of 90 days, that little shoot goes from 1 inch to 90 feet tall. See, I looked at that and I'm like, that is crazy. So you're like, hey, where's the growth happening? But what's happening is to support this great, great thing, there's a root structure that has to go deep in the earth and develop to support what this thing is going to be. So when does the growth happen? The answer lies in the unseen part of the tree. The underground root system. During the first 5 years, the fibrous root structure spreads deep and wide in the earth, preparing to support the incredible heights the tree will eventually reach. What does this teach us? It teaches us that A, God's timing is best. In the Old Testament book of Habakkuk, the prophet was asking similar questions using the watchtower motif. Hear the dialogue between the prophet and God. And we have that. I will stand at my guard post and station myself on the lookout tower. I will watch to see what he will say to me and what I should reply about my complaint. The Lord answered me, write down this vision. Clearly inscribe it on tablets so one may easily read it. For the vision is yet for the appointed time. It testifies about the end and will not lie. Though it delays, wait for it, since it will certainly come and not be late. When I was reading through that, it just kind of a convicting thing. Because I keep thinking, you're late. We've been trying for 6.5 years. You're late. We should be parents by now. You're late. And I feel like God is just breathing into my heart. It delays, but it will certainly come and it will not be late. We also learn that God is working. During those times, we wait patiently on the Lord. We know that deep down He is working, while it may be underneath, hidden deep in our character. In due time, God will reveal everything He's grown in us. Those who wait will never be put to shame. We will never be disappointed. So even though we have yet to have a baby, God is growing us into the people He has called us to be. Becoming parents hasn't looked the way we thought it would look. And it hasn't happened as fast as we wanted it to. But we can rest knowing God is working and His timing is best. And our last point, waiting on God increases my strength. Sometimes I struggle, and you probably struggle too, to remember that it's a good thing to wait on the Lord. It isn't easy. It goes against the grain of our society rooted in an instant gratification, quick fix. But there's a hidden benefit in waiting. In times of waiting, our souls are revived and our spirits are renewed. Isaiah wrote, for those who trust in the Lord will renew their strength. They will soar on wings like eagles. They will run and not grow weary. They will walk and not faint. The time will come when those who are waiting on the Lord will soar. Fanny can come up. God is the great mover. We are to push and to work. And if we wait in patient trust, remembering that God is in control, doing His work, increasing our strength, we will experience the move of God on our lives and in our church. The final lesson that Chris and I have learned through waiting and through losing a baby is that we need you. You need each other. The body of Christ was created for that, for fellowship and to be helpers. We are called to carry each other's burdens. We found out, we found out our baby was dead on a Friday. And Sunday morning, I came to worship practice because I have a job. And I didn't know what to do but just keep going. I didn't know what to do. So we're singing King of My Heart that Sunday. Actually, it's kind of weird that we sang it today. I didn't plan that, but actually I did plan it on the worship leader. We were singing that song, and I'm standing next to Jessica, and she's singing it. And we're talking about, you are good, you'll never let me down. And I just kept getting madder and madder because I felt abandoned. I felt let down. I felt like he wasn't good, and I couldn't see it. So I put my life on the floor. And I ran out of the sanctuary and just was bawling because I didn't know how to grieve this. And when I kind of got composure, I came back in, and this team loved us. They let us go home and grieve our baby. They took over. They said, it's okay, we got it. Just go. And Bridget Loveland texts me every day, are you okay? Are you falling into a black hole? Nanette Minute brought us dinner weekly to make sure we were eating. Our first Sunday back, Coco Rattan happened to be in the right place when I fell in her arms. She was there to hold me the whole service. We need each other. We wouldn't have gotten through that, I don't think, as well or as quickly without you guys just loving us. So what Chris and I kind of wanted to ask is, everybody just, let's go ahead and close our eyes. Are there any of you in here who are going through troubles or in a time of waiting? You can raise your hand. We want to pour into you. We want to love you. We want to pray for you. So we wanted to, while the band sings Waiting Here For You again, we wanted to meet you at the altar and pray with you and love you. Because that was so helpful, and that is what we're created to be. So as the band sings, we're going to be down here, and if you want prayer, or if you just need somebody to hold you, we've got you, and we're waiting.